Hello, viewers. It's Cynthia Michael from School Reviews, bringing you a new podcast on my segment called the Super Sentai Review. And like always, I'm going to speak very loudly, very clearly, and very slowly, in case you to understand me. Also, I try to do my best not to breathe hard during this audio podcast recording as well, not to cause any audio feedback as well. And finally, if you're under 18, this audio podcast recording will change to adult language. Once again, if you're under 18, this audio podcast recording will change to adult language. If you're under 18, now if you're over 18, that means you get to watch this audio podcast recording. Now, with this and everything else out the way, let's get into the latest episode of Gozyuger. So basically, this episode starts us like this. We see some weird. It's the middle of the night. Some type. It's the middle of the night, and we're on the roof of a school building, and we see the lifting ranger suit. Well, we see somebody as lifting red, kidnap a student and turn that female student into a ranger kid by using the power of the Gokaiger Sentai Ring. And basically, we see a bunch of kids could came rushing to stop the person who is lifting red, and from kidnapping that student that they just turned into a ranger key. So basically, one of this. So turns out that the student. The student president actually has the power of the Pato Red or Pato Ichigo Sentai Ring. And it has the power of the Patranger Sentai Ring. So basically, the student president is Pato Red or Pato Ichigo, if you want to be technical. I know that the Pato Rangers are called by their numbers, but I prefer to call them by their colors. So anyway, so basically, the lifting ranger got away with the student that he turned into a ranger kid, and basically the student president swore to his committee that I will stop that. Find out who that piece is, and I'll make sure he will never take any of our students again. And basically, we cut to the next day, and basically, it turns out that some has set up her detective agency at the cafe. So basically, Sun has a little plaque. Turned out she set up her little detective agency at the cafe. So basically, one of the students that goes to that school with the whole lifting thief situation, told her that my school is weird. It turns out I've been Sonata was like, how weird. So basically, turns out I've been at school for the last 6 months. Wow, even I never been home for I've been at my school for 6 months, and when I finally came home, my parents didn't notice, but they was acting all weird and brainwashed. So basically, Son was like, that does sound kind of strange and crazy, but Kenji said, like, don't worry, we'll take your case and whatnot. Some Ada was like, even though she found this case to be a little strange, but Kenjin, no, she's like, no case is too weird or too strange for me to handle. So basically, she got the rest of the Rangers, except for Machino, to go to school undercover. So basically, they have on their high school uniforms and whatnot undercover, checking out the school and whatnot. So basically, like, Sun and Kizin were one group as for how Ryoga and Rio I mean, so basically, Sun and Kinjin was one group. How Ryoga and Rio were one group. So basically, they was checking out the soccer field. How Ryoga and Rio was checking out the soccer group, and basically, like they was minding the youth and whatnot. They was minding the youth playing soccer and whatnot, and basically out of nowhere, it seems like they got attacked by this laser beam that kind of did something to their minds and whatnot. It kind of brainwashed them. So basically, most likely, it was a monster on campus that brainwashed How, Ryoga, and Real, and Real. So anyway. Wow. So basically, Kenjin and Sun Edo bumped into the student president dude who had the power of the Patranger ring, and basically was showing around campus and whatnot, and basically about we're talking about the phantom thief that was going around kidnapping students and whatnot until the janitor walked by and dropped a bucket, and basically and the student president was very harsh, hey, watch where you're dropping your crap, and basically was very disrespectful towards the janitor. Anyway, so basically, why are you being disrespectful towards that janitor? Turns out the janitor used to be the principal at the school, and for some reason and used to be my martial arts teacher as well. So according to the student president, he used to be the principal of the school and my martial arts teacher. But one day he decided to quit his principal job and basically and just and just took up this janitor job for some reason unknown. So anyway, so while the student president was showing around the school, they noticed that Kenjin and Sun noticed that notice that how we Ryoga and Real were acting like high school kids, acting like dumb high school kids and whatnot. So basically, and basically once the tour was over, like they found them in the gym. They found the boys in the gym, and like Kenjin and Sun was like, what the hell is going on here? So basically, turns out there's a number 1 monster at the school brainwashing the kids. So basically, it turns out all the kids at the school are being brainwashed by this youth monster, the number 1 youth monster at the school. So basically, all the kids are under the monster's brainwashed brainwash power. So basically, the monster did manage to brainwash Kinjin and Sun Edo, and that's when the Phantom Beast showed up, it ended up using the Gokaiger ring to turn Kinjin and Sun Edo into Ranger Keys, and that's when the student body president showed up, and basically, yeah, and basically showed up and transformed into Pato Ichigo or Pato Red, and they started to have a shootout outside the school, and that's when Machino showed up, not knowing this shit, not knowing what the hell was going on, but he's he thought this is an opportunity to get some more ranger keys while he's there. So basically, but Gates to Machida, the Panther Thief managed to get away from the student president and whatnot. Anyway, it turns out that the Panther turns out that the ex principal, who's now the janitor, was Lupton Red, was Lupton Red warrior. So anyway, he used the power. He used the Gokaiger ring to turn Sun and Kingdom back into human form, and then he used the power of the Lifting ring to unbrainwash them, and basically Machino showed up, and basically he's spraying that that one day that he explained the whole situation that that monster showed up so basically I was doing my duty as principal one day and basically like my vice principal got brainwashed and my vice principal kind of wished that he was kind of principal and basically or so a number one monster absorbed him and basically and that number one monster called the youth monster started to bring with my whole student. So basically, I had no choice but to step down from to step down from principal because I had to fight my way. I didn't have any need to, I didn't have the needs to fight, I didn't have the need to fight, to undo the brainwashing that the monster did to all my students and whatnot, until I found the Patranger ring, and so basically he found the Lupinranger ring, and along with the Megaranger ring and Bioman, the along with the so basically basically, when he brought his way out of the school, he found the Lupinranger ring, the Megaranger ring, the Bioman ring, and the Gokaiger ring, where he when he got the opportunity to escape from school, and basically he came back after he mastered the powers of, after he mastered the powers of the Little Ranger and Gokaiger, he came back to the school to try to free his students from that monster's control. So anyway, so basically, like I know about you, Go Character. So basically, help me free my students from that monster's brainwashing. I'll give you these Sentai rings, for your trouble. And basically, I didn't Son and Kenta agreed to help the ex principal to to free his students from the number one youth monsters, brainwashing and whatnot. So anyway, they all went back to the school the next day, and basically, the principal was already transformed into Luke Red, and the rest of the Rangers started to fight each other and whatnot. So anyway, basically, the so basically, with the help of the other Rangers, they was able to free Ryoga, Ryu, and Hal from the monster's brainwash control, thanks to the power of the Lutheran Ranger ring and whatnot. And basically, they started to fight the monster and whatnot. And the foot soldiers. So anyway, it turns out that one of the teachers was a foot soldier. Was a foot soldier, in disguise. So basically, one of the Airy was a teacher in disguise, and that Airy foot soldier summoned a mecha, and how would to deal with it with Tegazord and transform into Tegazord Crimson, and transform, and combine the Oka Blaster with Tegator and formed the Tegator Crimson Mecha and took down the airy foot soldier in his mecha. And as for the rest of the Rangers, Sansumi on a some used the power of the Mega Ranger ring to transform into Mega Red, and and Kenta used the power of the Bioman Sentai ring and transform into Bio Red to take down the free the vice principal from the youth monster and destroy them, and they ended up destroying the youth monster and set all the brainwashed students free, from the brainwashing power of the youth monster. So everything seemed like everybody, all the students came to the senses. They were free from that youth monster's brainwashing power once and for all. But until another monster showed up, called looks like a like a sports monster, or looks like a school sports monster showed up, and basically another number one monster showed up, and basically looked like he has a looked like he has a high school sports thing going on, and basically and, and started to try to establish he started to attack he launched a powerful attack against the student president, but the principal managed to block the attack and basically and de-transform into from his Lutheran ranger form and whatnot, and basically like he so basically the student president realized that his principal was Luther Red, who was trying to help them this whole time. And the sports monster, so basically the rest of the Rangers, was looking at the sports monster, and the sports monster say, "Oh, you think you think that youth monster was easy? I'm not gonna be so easy to take down like the youth monster." And basically, this is how the episode ended with the Rangers and their allies with the allies staring at the sports monster, and basically it seems like there's it's going to be and it turns out this episode is going to be a two-parter. So anyway, this is how the episode ended with the Rangers with the allies staring at the sports monster, seeing that it's going to be the it's going to be more trouble with this monster than the youth monster put up with. So anyway, this was a good episode. So basically, it was a good. So most likely, since this episode is a tribute to Patranger and Lupinranger, this was going to be a two-parter anyway. So anyway, I can't wait to see the second part of this episode. So anyway, we guys think about the latest episode of Gozyuger, good, bad, or just okay. Please let me know in the comments below. Anyway, signing off from Screen Reviews 1.